You are live.
Based on the portion of the text.
You are live.
You're live on-
Oh, we're live. Okay, very good. I'm gonna
Can you
call,
hear me?
Putting our bank for Rebecca's vote.
Can you hear me?
yes, we can, Mr. Bruno. Thank you.
But thank you for the extra.
I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Thank you, Ms. Bramer. We're gonna call this meeting to order. Today is the second. It's 1:18 in the morning. Oh, no, it is. Okay.
In the building.
All right, first thing is I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. McDevitt, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed, passed. Okay, we're gonna switch a little bit on the agenda. Instead of going to number 1 and 2, we're going to jump right to number 3, which is items to be discussed by the county treasurer. So, Mr. Swan, take
All
it
right.
away.
Thank you. Item A is what we requested be tabled from the board meeting the other day. This was a court ordered out of bankruptcy court ordered settlement for back taxes for this Northwest Bay Partners. And part of that resolution said that to allow me to accept payment of $61,306. Also part of that, which was the part I neglected, was that I need permission from the board, in other words, a resolution to write off, write off $31,317.13 in taxes that wasn't covered under the bankruptcy order.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Doug Beatty. Mr. Beatty, okay, discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Okay. Thank you,
All right,
Mr. Bruno.
resolution B, request B, every year, Blue Shield requests a letter of credit from us. What this means is that they're afraid that we're not going to pay our bill every month that they send to us. So they want the ability to basically jump into our account and take up to $253 or $253,000 out of our account if we don't pay our bill. We have never missed a payment. This is something that they do with private corporations. They don't understand that we can't declare bankruptcy. But anyway, we're negotiating this away. Hopefully next year we won't have to do this.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Swan, has this been going on? Is this a kind of a normal thing up to this point?
We've been doing this since we went self-insurance, which has been 3 years.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. McGowan?
Yes, thank you. Hey, trying to negotiate it, that, I mean, just an idea is paying a month ahead.
Well, to me, this is absurd because they already have direct access to an account that has over 5 million in it. So I really not too sure why they need this, but they're requesting it. I'm hoping, like I said, that we can negotiate this away for next year. We almost had it done this year, but we're not quite there, so we need to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, what else you got there, Mr. Swan?
Item C is a request to move $168,000 out of our general fund unappropriated surplus to the community college tuition reimbursement program. And what this is that if a resident in Warren County goes to another community college outside of the county, like Hudson Valley, okay, they can apply for a reduction in the tuition, which means that they only have to pay half of the tuition and Warren County pays the other half of the tuition while they're in Hudson Valley. So over the last few years, and the budget officer will attest to this, this has been going down considerably. Well, not considerably, but every year goes down a little bit and we budget a certain amount of money for it. For some reason, and I don't have an answer, in 2021, we're $150,000 over budget right now. So I'm asking for 168 because I'm hoping that will get us to the end of the year.
Okay, first of all, do we have a motion to bring this to the floor? Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Let's have a little discussion. Anybody have any questions? I do have one. So is this reciprocal with other counties too? And
Yes,
that has-
yes. If
So-
there's
so
somebody
the-
from Hudson Valley's in Schenectady County. So
Right.
somebody from Schenectady County comes to SUNY Adirondack, Schenectady County pays half of the tuition to, but that goes to the college. That doesn't come to us.
Right.
That goes to the college and then the student only has to pay half. But they have to prove residency. There's a residency requirement for at least 1 year prior to doing this. So if anybody from Warren County is going outside the county, they have to prove that they were a Warren County resident for at least a year prior to going to that community college.
Okay. A discussion, Mr. Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Swan, how long has this been in effect that the county would reimburse?
As far as I know, at least 25 years. I'm guessing maybe 30.
Yeah, I wondered if, maybe I went to Hudson Valley about 50 years ago. I wonder if I could go back. In all seriousness, I was curious. The other thing is, so we're not sure why the budget increase. I'm sure someone's probably taken a look at, is it because of the number of students or tuition increases, et cetera? Or-
Oh, this is basically because we have a tremendous amount of Warren County residents for this year have decided to go to other counties, community colleges.
Right, that's what I suspected. Thank you very much.
Mr. McGowan, I presume.
Yeah, I just, thank you. I mean, I know this and we've been through it before and the only thing I know is what happens for our local students that wanna go to SUNY Adirondack, you know?
They get, their tuition is half.
Their tuition is half,
Yes,
like if my kids decided, wanted to go to,
yes,
they'd pay half the tuition.
correct. If,
Mr.
as long as you meet the residency requirement of 1 year prior to going to the school.
Mr. Moore?
Yeah, the principle is that the host college pays half and the student pays half. So where we pay for our own students to go to our own college is in our sponsor contribution. And our sponsor contribution in turn is offset by the chargebacks to other counties, especially Saratoga County, by establishing a campus in Wilton, which is a very smart thing to do. And we can ask, we have a meeting with college officials tomorrow, so we can ask if they have any insight into that. Do we know if it was like an inordinate number of FIT students or anything like that?
I really don't have any stats on it. And
Okay.
a lot of times there's one, and it's the Fashion Institute in New York City,
Yep.
which has a huge tuition.
Yep.
And it qualifies under this. And when the students go to that, it hammers us. And I didn't get a chance to look to see if that might be part of this, but it's just a large number, you know, and if you talk to the educators, they'll tell you that when the economy goes a little squirrely, people go back to college. And so that might be part of this.
But yet the enrollment at SUNY Adirondack is down. So I'm not sure how I'm
I don't know.
correlating that too.
Yeah, they're going to other counties.
They're going to other counties, Mr. Thomas? Okay, well, that could be. All right, so any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Carry. Okay, thank you, Mr. Swan.
Thank you.
Job well done. Okay, let's go back now to the top of the agenda, which is request for transfers of funds as attached for committee approval. You need a motion for that?
Yes.
We need a motion for that. Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Carry. Okay. 2A. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions on the journal report of transfers, which is included in your packet?
Seeing none?
Okay. 2B, this is our mail contract. We we used to do the mail services with Mailings Made Easy. Last year, Mailings Made Easy sold their business and disbanded. So we entered into a contract with New York State Industries for the Disabled. This is a preferred vendor by New York State. They're on the preferred vendor list because of individuals with mental health difficulties working for this vendor. We are at the end of our contract as of December 31st. So the request here is to renew this contract into 2022 with the caveat that if the county decides, which I think is a possibility, if the county decides to bring this service back in-house, that we reserve our right to do that next year. We probably have to hire a staff person part-time to help out Connie downstairs with the mail operation. And then we would exercise our right to terminate this contract early. But in the interest of continuing to have mail services into January, I'm asking that the committee renew this contract. Now, I don't want to spend too long on this, but if you go deep enough into your packet, you'll see a side-by-side cost comparison that Tammy DiLorenzo did for this item. And the way that you read that is it's the final 2 pages that are labeled item 2B. So Industries for the Disabled sorts the mail. They have, and they get discounted postage because they pre-sort the mail and they drop it off to the post office already sorted. So the post office doesn't have to do the sorting on their own. As a result of that, we save 9.5 cents per item. So the savings totals out to about $13,000. And then we pay 7 cents per item handling, and we pay a courier fee. And those costs net out to the county ends up saving about between $1,000 and $2,000 by going with Industries for the Disabled. Side-by-side comparison to bringing it in-house, we no longer get the discount associated with sorting because all we're going to do is buy a metering machine. We're going to meter it ourselves. So the discount goes from 9.5 cents down to 5 cents. And out of that, we have to pay for the machine rental. We would rent a machine probably from Pitney Bowes to meter our own mail downstairs. And the net savings comes out to about, $200-300 as opposed to the $1,000, $2,000 for Industries for the Disabled. And then in addition to that, we would, as I mentioned, we probably have to hire another part-time person to help us get the work done. Why would we do an option that costs a little bit more than the current option? Because some departments are very dissatisfied with the service we're receiving. I asked all the department heads to give me their feedback on this. Building code, civil service, DSS, probation, and the treasurer all had no complaints. The sheriff's office did have some valid complaints. Board of Elections had some very valid complaints. And the one that, not to say that the others are not important, but the one that really gives me pause is the auditor's office. The auditor's office has complaints about the way the timeliness of invoices, the reliability of the counts of pieces that were, so that to me warrants taking a really close look at this next year with the potential to bring it back to the board, ask you to terminate the contract and hire a person to bring this in-house.
Do I have any other discussion? Okay, I need a motion. Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Thomas. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Moore. What else you got?
2C is an amendment to the credit card policy to include the public defender and the information technology department as having their own credit cards. The public defender request came through the Criminal Justice Committee. The IT piece is coming to us at the request of the clerk of the board. The IT department currently uses one of the general credit cards, and because of the nature of what they're doing, the purchases are more often flagged for fraud. And it has happened before where we have someone out in the field for training or a conference or whatever, who has a county credit card to handle those purchases, and they can't use it because there's a fraud alert because of something that happened with IT that was totally legitimate, but the credit card company is just sensitive to flagging it. So that's why the request for IT.
Okay, do I have a motion to bring that to the floor? Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. And the final item on my agenda is, this goes along with the piece that the Personnel Committee adopted to bring the county attorneys' two positions, salaries into sync in 2022 with where they are in 2021 already. And we did have a budget item. It was $179,000 to cover this item as well as the undersheriff item. So these funds are already in the 2022 budget, and the request is simply to transfer them into the codes they need to be in the county attorney's department. And the amount that's listed on your agenda, the 99,000, that's incorrect. It's going to be $89,017. The attachment that's later on in your packet is correct. Totals out to the $89,017.
Okay, do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we're on, thank you, Mr. Moore. We're on number 4, referrals from the Economic Growth and Development Committee. Ms. Hogan, are you on? I don't think I see her. It's all right. She's asking we're going to be on 4A, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $3,000 to reflect receipt of a donation from Glens Falls National Bank for the purpose of providing funds to utilize for marketing to inform the public of the free service. Do I have a motion for that? Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. B, request to amend the budget in the amount of $29,059 to transfer $21,189 to capital project H292 First Wilderness Making the Connection, and $7,870 to capital project H372 First Wilderness Plan Implementation 2016. A motion for that, Mr. McDevitt? Thank you. Second by Mr. Thomas. We changed the order around. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. C, request to close the capital projects and return remaining funds to the general fund unappropriated surplus. Capital project means any names and any remaining balances are listed in the agenda attached. Okay, motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. D, request to increase capital project H372 First Wilderness Heritage Corridor Plan Implementation 2016, the amount of $7,870. Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. McDevitt. All in discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're on E. This is a request to increase the capital project, the First Wilderness Heritage Corridor, make a connection, the amount of $21,189. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. F, request to authorize a new contract with the New York State Office of Information Technology Services, Geographic Information System, that's the GIS Program Office, to acquire new imagery for Warren County in the spring of 2022 in the amount of $86,200, and to determine a source of funding to cover the cost of the contract. So first of all, let's get the motion. If somebody wants to move the motion. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Okay, discussion. We're gonna need to find a funding source too. So is there any discussion on this? How about the funding source, Mr. Thomas?
I would suggest the general fund balance.
Okay, thank you. I would concur that we take it out of the general fund. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. So we're taking that out of the general fund. Okay, thank you. Request to amend resolution number 206 of 2021 to extend the contract with LNS Energy to February February 28th, 2022. This request did not go before the committee for approval. Mr. Hajos, are you on? I had a discussion with, I think it was Mr. Hajos just in the past week or two on this. The original contract, I believe, expires at the end of December. This was for getting the money to do a energy audit. And they started late for whatever reason. We're just requesting that we extend the time frame in which they can complete the project to the end of February. So do I have a motion to bring that to the floor? Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Thomas. Do I have any discussion on that? Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. We're on number 5, Supervisor Frazier, she's not here. Janelle, I see you there. You're requesting to amend the county budget in the amount of 2,000 to reflect the receipt of additional funding from the Health Research Incorporated to support current expenses associated with the bioterrorism grant. The request is contingent upon approval by the Health Services Committee, which was approved earlier today. So, motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Mental health, Rob York, is Rob on?
No.
No, okay. Request to amend the county budget in the amount of $12,675 to allow for acceptance and pass through for a one-time 100% state aid from the New York State Office of Mental Health to Behavioral Health Services North. This request is contingent upon approval by the Health Committee, which was approved earlier today. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor? Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
There's one more.
one more.
There's one more from health that didn't make it onto this agenda. It was mental health this morning, looking to appropriate 75,000 from the unexpended fund balance for court-ordered competency exams.
Okay, did everybody hear that?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. McDevitt to bring it to the floor, second by Mr. Thomas. Is there a discussion? This was approved by the Health Committee this morning. Thank you, Amanda, for bringing that up. Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're on to number 6, refer from the Human Services Committee Chair. That's Mr. Driscoll. I think he's left the arena. Is Mr. Hanchett on? No. When it gets around 2:00, we seem to lose a lot of participants. That's just my observation. Request to amend the county budget in the amount of $11,458 to reflect receipt of supplemental child care, disaster relief and recovery funds. Do I have a motion to bring it to the floor by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. This was a request to close capital project, the hazard mitigation grant program due to the project being completed by the sheriff. Do I have anybody bring a motion for this, to close this? Did I skip 7A? I'm sorry. 7A. Let's back up just a step.
A and B, I'll move.
A and B, you move together?
Second.
Second by Mr. Thomas. Okay, all in favor of moving A and B together?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, so we're gonna move A and B together. Need a motion to bring it to the floor now?
No, I thought that's what your motion
Oh, we
was.
just did it, yep. All right, so any discussion on A and B? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, 7A and B carried. C, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $80,629 to appropriate funds into the budget code, general sheriff's, law enforcement salaries, overtime from revenue collected from dedicated patrol services provided to the Village of Lake George and Six Flags Great Escape during the 21 summer season. Anybody want to move that motion? Moved by Mr. McDevitt, second by
Could
Mr.
you
Thomas. Discussion, Mr. Bruno?
could you restate that, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to amend the county budget in the amount of 80,629 to appropriate funds in budget code 3110120, general sheriff's law enforcement salaries / overtime from revenue collected for dedicated parole services provided to the Village of Lake George and Six Flags during last summer or this past summer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I second that.
Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. So D was withdrawn, correct?
Yeah.
So D's been
Oh,
withdrawn.
so what happened was that originally came in from committee with the wrong amount. So to show that it's actually coming on here, D is actually replaced with E.
So D's replaced with E. Okay, so on your agenda, D is replaced with E. Okay. Request to appropriate funds in the amount of $534,200 from the general fund unappropriated surplus to various sheriff's budget codes to address deficits created from the ratification of collective bargaining agreements with the PBA, the Sheriff's Employees Alliance, and unanticipated operating expenditures throughout the year. A note, a request in this amount did not go before the committee for approval. So this did not have committee approval. So
The 466 had approval.
the
For the
466.
meeting, It was correct to 530.
Okay, so the 466 had approval through committee. The 544 or 534, 200 did not. Our sheriff's here, Mr. LaFar. Does anyone have a question for him? Or did you want to make a comment, Mr. LaFar? Okay, sure.
This request is to address deficits in some of our salary overtime codes. It's something that we plan for each year to under budget, knowing that we can usually make that up within our budget. I've learned that that's very sound planning. With this year, we ratified contracts with two of our big unions, and that equates to $398,539, which I would hope would soften this request a little bit. Beyond that, we had a tough year. We had a generator repair that was around $30,000 that we did not anticipate. We had some legal fees that we were not prepared for, just a little over $20,000. There's with our fleet that we didn't plan for. It just, one thing seemed to happen after another. Normally we can overcome this, but this year was a little tougher than usual.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other discussion? Any questions for the sheriff? Okay, seeing that, I'll call the question. All in favor? No one made the motion. Mr. McDevitt, would you like to make the motion? Bring it to the floor. Thank you. Second by Mr. Thomas. All in favor now? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're rolling. E, request for a transfer of funds in the amount of $78,000 from budget code A 1990-469.01 contingency account, other payments, calories to budget code 3110110 it's the 2022 law enforcement salaries, regular to cover the cost of the increase to the under sheriff's salary and the 2022 county budget. This request did not go before the committee for approval and is only necessary if personnel and higher education approve the request to amend the table of organizational and salary schedule to increase the salaries.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Mr. Moore.
There is also, the number is misstated here. The number instead of 79,514 should be 85,597. The fringe amounts need to be corrected. So the amounts going into each account, 79,514 into the salary. That's to make up the increase for the undersheriff's salary. And then the accompanying fringe is 4,930 for the FICA and 1,153 for the Medicare. Those two total out to 7.65% of the salary, of course. These, as I mentioned earlier, when we had the budget amendment for the county attorney, there was a contingency created of $179,000 to cover these items. So when you total out this item with the county attorney's item, it totals out to 174,614. So we almost nailed it, and we got a little bit of savings in that contingency.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We do have a motion on the floor, correct? No, we haven't gotten the motion yet. So Mr. Thomas will bring the motion to the floor. Second by Mr. McDevitt. Okay, discussion. Discussion, Ms. Kramer?
I just want to be clear, with our budget officer earlier, he had said that there was a budgeted amount of 114,000 in 2022. But to be more precise, it was broken out between the regular salaries and then there was money put away in the contingency fund. Is that correct? I
Mr.
should
Thomas,
look
you
right
can
at you.
answer
Sorry,
that.
Frank.
Mr. Thomas, you can answer.
The 35 was in the salaries that has been paid. And we budgeted, well, I had 79,514. I didn't anticipate the fringe, but our county administrator did. Thank you.
And what was it? Can I ask how much then is in contingency for 2022 remaining after those?
Our contingency right now balance is $50,202.61.
That's 2021, Chairman, correct?
What's our contingent, Frank? Do you know?
It should be around 275.
275?
When we're all.
But we had an additional contingency for these items of 179. So it's 179,000 minus 174,614. So, you know, it's roughly with a little over it's a little under $4,500.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to amend this resolution to move money from contingency to the proper department for the real property director to increase her years from 15 to 25. She's been here for 26 years.
Okay, so you're proposing amendment to the current motion resolution on the floor?
Yes,
Is that correct?
to amend the 2022 budget, yes.
So you're asking to amend the 2021, 22 budget in the amount of how much?
I don't know the exact amount.
Okay, for,
The real property director. She's currently budgeted at 15 years in her increments on the salary table. And my motion is to put her to 25-year increment.
okay. Okay, so you're amending the current resolution on the floor to now include, I'm going to ask our parliamentarian for her comment on this.
I just want to point out that by transferring this money in, it does not increase the salary. You're just transferring money into the salary code. In order to increase the salary of the real property tax director, the personnel committee needs to amend the salary schedule to increase the salary for 2022 from what it's budgeted at to what you want it to be.
Okay,
So this just is going to move the money in and there'll be a surplus of funds there until a salary schedule adjustment is approved.
okay. Thank you.
So you still want to go forward with your amendment?
Yeah,
Okay, so do I have a second on that amendment? I'll second that. Okay, so discussion.
Was it the 25th?
yes.
That's going to require $7,261 in salary. It's going to require, I'm just quickly doing the math here in my spreadsheet. $556 in payroll taxes, and then an additional amount, which I can't determine, for pension, because I'm not sure what the tier is and all of that. We would need the treasurer's office to determine that. So it's going to be $7,817 plus whatever the pension, associated pension would be.
Do we have enough in the, you wanted that to come, Ms. Bramer, from the contingency?
The same place where this other one is. Yeah,
You
looks
have,
like it's contingency.
That's Ryan, if there's enough in that
For
other.
raise.
Is there enough in the account, Mr. Moore, to cover that?
In the 47901.
And the
let's see,
469.01?
179.00 minus 174, 614. Have a balance of $4,386.
Is that before or after?
Well, that's what we have left. So,
so we-
$179,000 minus 174,614 is 4,386.
So we don't have enough in the contingency budget to cover the at least $7,819 plus the pension portion.
7,817 plus pension.
17, not 1917.
And can we just do that off the cuff like that?
Mr. McGowan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just confused. I mean, this just came out of nowhere and, you know,
Well,
I know we're coming down to the end of the year. What do we want to just wipe everything out to zero? But I mean, I don't know.
This is next year.
okay, well, this is for next year, and she was making an amendment to the current motion to,
Not that I'm complaining.
Yeah.
This is just moving way too fast for me.
we'll slow it down. Chairwoman, did you want to say something?
I did. It's discussion, I think, right now during this
That's
debate.
correct. We're in the discussion phase.
Here's where I'm disappointed. We have a budget officer who's worked all year long, and he's worked really hard all year long. He's gone to every single committee meeting. He's looked carefully at things, and I know things come up at the end of the year and the budget comes out and people are disappointed. But I also think earlier today, we heard what is fair, and every department head should be fighting for their employees. I understand that, but it's our job as a board to fight for all of our employees and to think about equity. So to your point, Supervisor McGowan, we're going into next year already with this contingent fund now going down to 4,000. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to ask our county administrator for, once again, a list of every employee, their years of service. I spent 3 hours during the budget season doing this. I know there are more than just one individual or two individuals that have been here for years and they aren't being paid at the higher level. And that's because this chart was never meant to be just on longevity. Years ago when we worked here, that's how people got raises. Now it's supposed to be on your merit, on your evaluations, and on your longevity. That's the goal of using this chart. But the chart has become a tool for whomever wants to come in and say, well, I've been here this long, or I'm coming into this job with all this experience, so put me up to my highest level here. So if we're not going to use the chart in the way that I guess you guys developed in 19, I wasn't on the board when you developed the chart, but I was on the board when we started performance evaluations and they fell to the side. So I'm happy this year to see them being done, but I'm disappointed this year that we're still talking about major discrepancies with individuals. And, while it's coming up it's sparked from a discussion from the sheriff's department, it's applicable in many of our departments. And we could use examples that are sitting here today. So I would like a complete list, Administrator Moore, of those individuals that are employed by our county that are not at their full years of service and what they would be eligible for. That I think is a fair request as we move forward into 2022. And I'm sure that Frank will still be the budget officer next year, despite all of our political chaos. And I'm going to ask him next year to go through that in the same way and identify those individuals that need to be reevaluated. We heard today what's fair is fair, but yet it's not really fair. So let's talk about people's performance combined with their longevity and where they're at. I would support this resolution amendment that Supervisor Bramer is bringing up. But with that, I'm really disappointed that this is what with the point we're at, and that, we're at an end of a long day, but finance is one of our most important committee meetings. And I just want to commend Supervisor Bruno, for tuning in today when I know he's not home and he's really making a point to be here so we have a quorum. And although I'm happy to vote on these issues, I don't think I qualify quite yet unless someone leaves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Ms. Bramer
Well,
and then
thank
Mr.
you.
Bruno.
Thank you. you know, we are in a committee meeting and I'm asking this to be considered now and to have this discussion here so that it is not at a full board meeting where we know it gets really long and arduous. I heard today that the undersheriff deserves that level because of his merit. And what I am saying is that this individual that I'm advocating for also deserves that increment based on her merit. So I hope that everyone will support the amendment, as I will support the undersheriff getting that change in salary for this 2022. And I don't understand why we only have $4,000 left in contingency for 2022, unless I misunderstood what was being said up at the front. I couldn't hear everything.
Okay, Mr. Bruno, and then we'll answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like a clarification of the rationale or reasoning for this request so that I have a clear understanding.
I won't speak for Ms. Kramer. I'll let Ms. Kramer speak for herself. I was going to capsulize, but go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Supervisor Bruno, we're hearing a request from one department asking to increase an individual's years on the salary schedule to the high, not the highest, but one of the higher levels under which they are eligible for their full years of service at the county. I think that the undersheriff has been at the county for 30 years. So we're looking at putting him at the salary increment of 25 years based on his full time of service at the county. I have advocated in the past for a real property director to be given that same type of consideration, that she be given her salary increment to the full number of years of service that she has had at the county, not just in the most recent position that she's had as department head. And that's what I would like now. If we're going to give it to one high-level employee, almost their full years of service, I would like similar treatment for our real property director. She's been here for 26 years, so I'm asking for her to be paid at the 25th increment for her grade level in the 2022 budget, starting in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that suffices. Okay, Mr. McDevitt.
Yeah, this is moving a little bit too fast for me. I personally would prefer to see an analysis by our administrator in terms of taking the totality of the of all employees that are eligible, and but this is kind of like we're picking this out of the hat today, and it's a surprise. So I feel uncomfortable.
Okay, Mr. McGowan, and then Ms. Kramer.
Thank you for the opportunity. And, I brought it up to our sheriff that, I'm hoping this doesn't come back and bite us. Now, the same day, just a little short later, we throw in another $7,000 raise. And it's already gone through this county, I can tell you. It only takes 17 and a half minutes to get from one end to the furthest part of the jail. So, this is another thing that hasn't come to committee. And if we're going to do this, the scale, then I think that it should go to a committee. It should be discussed, and we know. I just don't like the last minute thing. All right. And I'm not on finance, but I didn't know this was coming.
Ms. Kramer.
Well, to that end, I'll make a motion to table both of those requests back to their appropriate committees. Then we'll have full time, plenty of time to vet it and come through committee process and up through personnel and then through finance, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, Mr. McDevitt.
I'd like to make one clear-cut distinction between the sheriff's office and this position here.
Point of order.
Point of order. Yes, state your point of order.
I thought we weren't allowed to discuss on a motion to table.
Oh, very correct. You are spot on. We have a motion to table on the floor. Do we have a second for that?
Okay.
Point of order?
Point of order, sir.
Okay, go ahead, madam.
Actually, you can debate on this particular motion to table for a later date, but what you have to do is get a second on this motion unless you're going to move, at least call for discussion. Supervisor Brandler.
Her point of order was to table.
Right, but she has a motion to table.
And no second.
Right.
Well, we haven't had an opportunity yet. I haven't asked a question if there's a second yet.
Discussion, which was my point of order.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second on the motion to table? Mr. Bruno seconds it. Okay. So now we have to vote on the motion to table. So all in favor of tabling this to have it go back to committee?
What are we tabling? Both items?
We're tabling both items. That was her
Was
request.
the real property tax director item, was that included into the, was that voted on? That's what I'm asking.
No, that didn't go through
So,
committee.
so it's never been amended. Now we're going to table something that hasn't been amended.
That's the
Thank you.
That was a good one, Frank.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Parliamentarian?
I think there is some confusion on the contingent account first. There's two separate contingent accounts. The one that you're looking to amend is 46901, which is other payments or salaries. That one was set up to hold the money that they were using for the salary increases that were, I guess, thought about and planned for. There's a separate contingent account that's our traditional contingent account that has the 275,000 or whatever. And I think those two are being confused. So the problem with the amendment that you're trying to make is that there's not enough money in that 46901 to cover both increases.
Thank you. Mary.
So after you take out the increases that we've already talked about for the sheriff and the county attorney, that's what Ryan's telling you. There's only around $4,000 left there. So even if you amend this motion, there's not enough money in there. I think what you need is a separate motion to transfer from contingent in 2022, the traditional contingent account, right, Ryan?
Right.
To, if you're in favor of doing this real property one. So they're really, this one piece really can't be handled together. It's really two separate things. So, but back to the other point, there is a motion to approve the resolution or the request as it is put forth by Mr. Thomas and Mr. McDevitt. And then there was a second motion to amend the prior motion, which you really can't do because it wasn't your motion to amend, if that makes sense. Then you have a motion to table also.
Well,
Okay, so let me ask you as parliamentarian, what takes precedent right now?
The motion to table will take precedence. But if that's really what you want to do here. If you're tabling, you're really only just tabling the motion to approve the transfer for the sheriffs. Because that's the primary motion.
Okay, so we have the motion to table.
Mhm. And that's going to be just to table this item, the real property item, I think you're,
doesn't exist.
Okay, so we have the motion on the floor to table the undersheriff. And Mr. Bruno had seconded that. So let's have it,
you can, if there's discussion, you can hold.
I'll allow discussion on this. Is there any discussion on this?
Yeah, I thought we resolved this in our last committee meeting, that we had basically agreed that, Mr. Como was going to receive what probably is a warranted amount of money. So I don't know how we're, I'm just confused. So,
Well, it's privilege of another supervisor to bring it up, so. Other discussion, Mr. McGowan?
Yes, thank you. On the same thing, we have approved, we went through this for the sheriff's department. All right, and then to come to find out that, there's an amendment thrown on for someone else, which there's not enough money in there. So to table it and to pull out the sheriff's department, I don't think it's fair. So, I think the second matter should be brought up alone and work together with, all the other amended scales that are going to come future or in the future for next year. I don't know why we have to do it today when there's no money. But to go back and take away from the sheriff for what, we've come to an agreement and gone through, I don't think it's fair either.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so I'm gonna call the question on tabling. And the table will be just for,
The transfer from the contingent account, other payment salaries to the sheriff's budget in the amount of
so
$85,597
this pertains strictly to the undersheriff's pay.
to the undersheriff, yes.
Okay. We had a table, we had a second. Mr. Bruno, any other discussion?
If I had a better understanding, I probably would not have seconded the motion.
You can withdraw your second if you want.
I'll withdraw that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so seeing we don't have a second,
And the motion to table.
then the motion on the table fails at this time.
So now you're back to your original.
Now we're back to our original motion. And we have that on the floor already, and we have a second. So any other discussion on that? Which is the original motion with the undersheriff's salary increase or new salary. Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Ms.
having to
Bramer's
protest
opposed,
no.
and I'm opposed also.
Okay, how, can you confirm Mr. Bruno's vote?
Mr. Bruno, did you approve it or abstain or
I'll abstain.
The
abstain?
motion fails.
So the motion fails?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, next item.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Just the informational request that's in front of me, I think I understand it properly. I just want to make sure. So the request is for a comparison between the 2022 adopted budget salaries for non-union employees as compared to their highest reachable increment.
May I, Mr. Chairman?
yes, you may, Madam.
Based on their years of service, I understand we have done a performance evaluation for every department head. So we have the merit information, we have the scoring on that. I'm just looking to find out what the difference of the years of service. And you clarified earlier, County Administrator Moore, that it is on years of service with the county, not in the position of which they serve. So I would like that document to reflect the years in the position and the years of service to the county. Because that way, I think that's an important distinction, and one that, as even we've heard today, it takes some time to get used to positions that perhaps have different roles and responsibilities that you haven't been exposed to before. So in the example that Supervisor Bramer's bringing up, it would clearly show, I don't know if the real property director was employed in county service before real property, but it would show her years of service or his years of service. And then it would show what increment they're at based, you know what I mean? So there's many with that discrepancy.
This is going to take me a couple of days to do.
Well, I'll show you my notes from when I did it during budget, and maybe that will help us move along with it.
But if we're doing it, I can very easily do that because all of this data in my chart is
Sure.
based upon years of service at the county.
Okay,
To run a second set of data based on years of service in the position, I'm going to have to redo the whole thing.
well, why don't you do it then just on based of years? May I? I'm sorry to go back and forth. Do you mind, Chairman?
Go ahead, let's
Thanks.
finish this up.
So then just do it based on years of service at the county, but Administrator Moore, I will then follow up with our HR director, and I'm sure she can quickly tell me how many years our department, we only have 30 some department heads have been in their positions.
Well, I thought, is this just department heads or is it all non-union employees?
I should probably be all non-union.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's,
All right.
there's a lot.
So then why don't you do, yeah, that's my concern, that there's a lot of discrepancies, but, so yeah, just counting years of service, and then we'll, if we need to move to the second stage, we will.
All non-union employees based on years of service at the county, the difference between the adopted budget for next year and their highest possible increment just based
Yep.
on their time at the county.
And that's data, it sounds like you already have, that you
Yeah,
can whittle
I
up
just
in
have
your
to, I
Excel.
just have to do some math. I could
Yeah.
probably do that today.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's finish that up, and you guys, if there's any other questions, you two can talk later about that.
Thank you.
Okay, where are we, we're on number 8, 8B.
8A was withdrawn.
Okay, 8A was withdrawn. 8B, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $500 to reflect receipt of insurance recovery payment for guide rail repairs. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. C, request to increase the capital project in the amount of 16,371. That's over the East River Drive. Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. D, request to increase capital project H381, that's the South Johnsburg Road, down at Johnsburg in the amount of 13,000. Motion by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye, carried. E, request for a transfer of funds in the amount of 10,000 from the contingent account to the budget code 162A470 Waste Management Containment Contracts to cover the local match of public education promotion and outreach grant. Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Round F, 8F, request to amend the county budget in the amount of 10,000 to reflect receipt of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation grant. Moved by Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion, none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, we're on to 9. This was a referral from the OCTAX committee. Request to amend the county budget in the amount of 33,422 to reflect receipt of the Empire State Development Matching Funds. Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Carried. We're on to 10 now. We're moving along. 10, these are requests from the clerk of the board to authorize agreements and payments funded in the 2022 budget. Can we combine any of these?
You can approve them all together.
We-
This is all stuff.
I'll move A through N.
A through
thank you.
N or A through N. Okay, do I have a second for that? Second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion on A through N? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Nice work on that, Mr. Thomas. 11, what can we do?
You can do all these together too. They're all, these are standard resolutions that we do annually, fixing the tax rates, levying unpaid school. There's not much in here that you have much call over. It's all just related to tax warrants. The only one that you could potentially decide to change if you wanted to was L, and that one's just fixing the date of the organization meeting. This previously was a resolution that would come to you just from the chair of the board, but our rules say that everything needs to go through committee, so we're bringing everything through committee.
I'll move A through L.
A through L. Do I have a second, Mr. McDevitt? Second. Okay, discussion on A through L. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're on to number 12.
Yeah. these are all- No, we did my personnel.
These were all approved by the Personnel Committee.
The only one you should probably pay special attention to is the sheriff's one.
Okay,
because you
so
did not approve the funding.
12-3 we're on. Can any of these be, they all have to stand alone?
No, you can approve everything together if you want to. I was just pointing out that you did not approve the funding for the sheriff, so you may want to pay attention to that one.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to bundle them, or we can go individually.
I'll move the bundle.
You're a bundle man, Mr. McDevitt? That's a second way, Mr. Thomas. We got 2 bundlers. Okay, I will entertain any discussion on any one of those. Ms. Spranger.
Okay, I know that Ms. Allen just said about the sheriff one. Do we need to do anything to indicate that that is not part of the bundle?
Yes, we do. And that's, when was that? That's 11 though.
11C,
Yeah, that's 11C. Right now, we're on 10, A, B, C, and D.
you can move them all together aside from 11C if that's what you want to do.
Well, why would we move them aside?
No, I mean, you said you can move 3 through 11 through 13 aside from 11C if you want to approve that whole section.
Okay, the parliamentarians said we can move 3 through 13, other than taking one out, which would be
11C.
11C, so we can have that one, a further discussion on that. So do I have a motion or amendment to move 3 through 13, correct?
Yep, and you have a motion on the floor, so you just need to confirm that with Mr. McDevitt.
Mr. McDevitt, would you amend it to go 3 through 13?
Sure.
Okay, and
Aside from 11C.
aside from 11C, which we have to have a separate discussion on. And you were a second on that, Mr. Thomas. You're fine with that?
What are we doing now?
We're just bundling 3 through 13, but we're pulling out 11C
Okay,
because we have to have a separate discussion on that.
why can't it be part of the bundle?
Because this committee did not approve the funding for that position. So 11C is, I believe, going to need to go back to personnel. We can create the position in the table of organization if you approve it, but there will be no funding for it because the transfer was not approved.
That's my motion. That's my second, I should say.
Is to still approve it, and then the funding part will have to go back. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Yes, Mr. Moore?
I'll be wrong if I don't say this. Typically, you wouldn't do the budget amendment now. You would do the budget amendment in next year. And the treasurer's office pointed this out to me. We talked about it yesterday. And I said, I talked to the deputy treasurer, I explained that the reason why they're all in the agendas now is because they all go together. And we thought it would be neater for the conversation. But there's no requirement that this budget amendment for 2022 is done in 2021. It's not accurate.
So what's your recommendation?
I would present that information to the clerk so that typically that wouldn't be done this way. We have other positions that are approved in here that don't yet have funding allocated. For example, the public health positions. Because typically we wouldn't do it this way.
This way being
Right.
bundling them all together?
Right, we presented the budget amendment for the county attorney's office and the budget amendment for the sheriff's department because of the unconventional way in which they were budgeted. They were budgeted in contingency. And we wanted, in putting them on this agenda to go along with their approvals by personnel, was done so that everyone would understand that the funding was there, that this was not going to create a funding issue next year. But the traditional way of doing these would be to wait until we roll into the next year to do the budget amendment when we're in that year.
Are you comfortable with us approving 3 through 13, but pulling out 11C?
Sure, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the original motion was to approve 3 through 13, pulling out 11C. Can you second that, Mr. Thomas?
You made that motion?
Mr. McDevitt made the motion. You seconded it. So my memory's not all gone.
Okay.
Close, but so let's have, we've got that on the floor, 3 through 13 without 11C.
I don't recall my motion, my second being without 11C.
Mr. McDevitt, Mr. Thomas made the motion to approve 3 through 13. And then Mr. McDevitt amended his motion to take out 11C. Mr. Thomas did not amend. his
Gotcha.
second.
Mr. McDevitt made the amendment and you didn't second the amendment.
Correct.
Okay. So
I'm going to back out of my initial,
motion. So let's go through these individually.
Yeah.
All right, let's just go through them individually. That'll solve this problem. We're on 12.3. Request items to be discussed by the personnel officer. They're going to amend the 2022 table of organization salary to increase the salary of the civil service assistant from 39.9 to 42.3 to reflect the correct years of service that the individual has with the county. Do I have a motion to bring that to the floor? Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Okay, discussion. Okay, hearing that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're on 12.8.
I'll move A and B.
You move A and B. Okay, do I have a second to move A and B? Mr. McDevitt. Okay, discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're done with A. Round 9. Referral from my committee. This was very simplistic. We passed it in personnel just a few minutes ago. Well, a few hours ago.
Move 9.
Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. 10, we're on 10. Referrals from the Health Services Committee chaired by Ms. Frazier. She's not here today.
I will move A through D.
A through B,
D.
A through D. Okay, do I have a second for that? Second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion? A through D. We're on 10, A through D. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay, we're on number 11. This is from the Public Safety Committee. 11A, request to amend the table of organization salary schedule to create and fill the position of patrol officer at the salary and delete the position of the civil law enforcement officer effective December 20th. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Any discussion on this? Seeing now question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We're on 11, we're item 11B. Request to amend the table of organization to change the title of school resource officer to special patrol officer. Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We're on C. Request to amend the table of organization salary schedule to increase the salary of the undersheriff from 35,000 to 114,514 effective January 1, 2022. This request did not go before the committee. Actually, it did go before the committee.
It didn't go before public safety.
Oh, it did not go before public safety and is contingent upon approval from personnel administration and higher education. It did go through personnel though, and was approved through personnel. It did not go through public safety, which is where it should have fallen under. So can we still have a motion to approve this?
Referred to from personnel.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve this. A motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. McDevitt. Discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed, carried. We're on 12.
Yep.
On behalf, this is Mr. Moore, 12A. Did you want to discuss any of that, Mr. Moore?
No, this is the 12A is the resolution allowing additional contact tracers, and B is the county attorney's comp schedule amendments, and the C is the payout for public health.
I'll entertain a motion to combine them.
I'll move, oh, sorry. A, B,
Okay.
and C.
Whatever.
Motion by Ms. Kramer, second by Mr. Thomas to combine them. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're on 13, request to amend the table organization salary schedule for 2022 to defund the positions of majority, minority leader, and chairman of the board.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bramer. Mr. Bruno seconded. Discussion.
I don't think that passed.
Now that I'm not chair,
Well, hang on just a second. It did not pass though through personnel, so
I should have removed that one. So
we have to remove that. It did not pass through personnel.
it's no longer a referral.
It's not a referral. Yes, Ms. Bramer.
if I may, then on a discussion item, not sure why it needs to go through personnel. I know Amanda told me that's our normal protocol. However, we are, all over the place on protocol today. And one of the things that we heard all year long was how horrible it was that these people were getting stipends for work that they were doing on top of their regular county compensation. So I don't understand why anyone here on this board, especially certain supervisors who are no longer in this room, would be opposed to having this move forward. And I do think that we should be removing the stipend for the chair. The chair in this situation doesn't have any more authority really than any one of us other supervisors. That's what we've been hearing all year long too. I mean, that person is not the chief executive necessarily. They are authorized to do what the board gives them the authority to do. And I think that we have said all year long that we would come back and revisit the rules for 2022. That's what we're doing. And let's have at it. Make everybody fair. Let's get rid of all the stipends and just come up here and do the county work that you're supposed to be doing. All of us. Do it together.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm here for the discussion in this committee regarding this. And I really wanted to highlight, though, that there have been numerous supervisors that have commented after the last board meeting. We talked about moving forward with asking for everyone to give their feedback to our administrator and to our clerk of the board on the rules and on the repeated requests for a municipal home rule discussion. That took time to research. Administrator Moore made time to do that. That was all provided to our board. When it was provided to our board, we heard over and over that, okay, then the municipal home rule will take too long, or we don't want it anymore. Everyone's now very vocal over the fact that they do not want stipends, which, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely fine. Defund the majority minority positions and unfund the chair position. As chair, I am at committee meetings, but I do not have a vote on any committee. I chair the board. I think that it's fair to say that sometimes the position of chair and the salary that accompanies it exceeds the salary of a town supervisor in some communities. It's also it's a reason why we continually see people that want to serve as chair for multiple terms. I think if you remove the salary from it, you truly have people here that are doing the people's work and are doing it for the base salary. The position of chair is equivalent to the work that's being done in other committees. Everyone's working hard. I think it's appropriate to remove it. I've always said this. I've said we should get $1. And here today, I'm going to argue again that we should be doing this as citizen advocates. We work for the people. We should get the work done, but we are a board of supervisors. We are not a legislative body. We do not have a county executive. And I would fully support removing any stipend for any chair of the board, of committees or of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Mr. Bruno, did you have did I see your hand up? No?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other discussion, Mr. McDevitt?
Yeah, did we in the personnel committee move to table this exact,
Yes.
so
Table that personnel.
I feel very uncomfortable where we have members of this board, members that were here previously that left this room with the distinct impression that an item was tabled. Now, I just don't think that's fair to, certainly to Supervisor Conover, that he made a rather impassioned plea as to why it ought to be tabled. We have the personnel committee tables it, and now we are going to take action that apparently is counter to that. I just, to me, it's, I don't think it's fair play.
Well, thank you, Mr. McDevitt. It was tabled in the Personnel Committee. We are in the discussion phase of this committee, and as such, any item can be discussed.
Sure.
So with all due fairness, what would be unfair if I didn't allow Ms. Bramer to bring.
No, I'm not arguing that there should be discussion, vote. That's
Right.
fine. Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're doing. We're in the discussion phase
Sure.
right now of, and I'll throw in my 2 cents. This was a point of animosity all year long. I would be shocked when it gets to the full board, it didn't get a 20-0 vote, because everyone seemed to think that there was unfairness during the year. Not everyone, some people, and that no one chairmanship is more important than the others. I agree with that. And so funding one over the other makes no sense to me at all and is absolutely unfair. And going forward, it doesn't matter the person in the position, it's the fact that the position, in my opinion, should not be funded. The chairmanship should not be funded, as well as the chair of the finance or the chair of personnel or the chair of any other committee. They're all the same. Why would the chair of facilities not get a stipend, or the chair of health, or the chair? Now, the budget officer position is a separate position, and we all know that. It's not a chairmanship, it's a separate position. And that's why that has not been included, I guess, but I can't speak for Ms. Bramer. But Mr. Thomas, did you want to make a comment?
I was just wondering what the motion was.
There was no motion.
Again?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas, there's no motion. We're on the discussion. We're in the
Okay.
discussion phase. Ms.
So we can
Bramer?
Talk about anything then?
Yes, in the discussion, you can talk about anything, which we've done all year.
Thank you. What I tried to do was make a motion to this effect, which was be to eliminate the funding for majority leader, minority leader, and chair of the board. I don't think it's appropriate to remove the stipend for the budget officer. I think that that person plays a separate role, and we could always, I believe it's within our authority to hire someone who's not a board member. So I think we need to leave that flexibility available to the board if we needed to hire someone, pay them a stipend
There
as
you go.
the budget officer.
I'm gonna
So
ask.
my,
sorry.
if I were able to make a motion to bring it to the full board, that would be my motion. I mean, we made other things today. Right here, number 13C apparently is not how we normally do this. We would wait until 2022. But we made that motion and passed it on to the full board anyway. So I don't see why I can't make a motion to do number 13, even though it may be an amendment to our typical policy.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the parliamentarian right now for her opinion on this.
I don't know that there's an opinion to be had on it. There's another committee that's tabled the matter, but I don't think.
Another committee can bring it up or they can't vote as a resolution.
Well, I think the problem is you have is procedural and that this is an amendment to the table of organization and the salary schedule, which is done by the personnel committee, not by finance. Finance gives their blessing after personnel has approved it. But that said, I mean, I guess as a committee, you want to put that resolution to the board, you could, but I think that it really needs to follow the proper procedure, which is to go to personnel. That's my opinion.
What would that go to what?
It should be, it needs to go to personnel first because you're amending the salary schedule and the table of organization to take the salary from what it is to zero. That's when you get a resolution, you're going to get a resolution that says you're amending the table of organization and the salary schedule. That's the job of the personnel committee first, then the finance committee second. And the personnel committee tabled that. So in my opinion, it needs to come from personnel first, then to this committee.
Okay, personnel tabled it. I'm not going to allow it to come to the floor to be voted on because I listen to the parliamentarian and that's her opinion and I respect that. So we won't have a motion to bring it to the floor. Any other final comments on that, though? We can discuss. Yes, Ms. Bramer.
Never mind. My only comment is then we have this discussion at the full board. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
And I think it should be a discussion on it, and I'll find it rather interesting for all the people who wanted it taken away and so forth, that will now vote for it, just because, who knows? The logic won't be there, but the hypocrisy will. So I will entertain any other discussions. Do I see a hand? Oh, Ms. Bramer, it's your hand.
I do have one more item, Chairman.
Okay.
The back related to number 10 and 11. These are a lot of the typical annual agreements that we make with all these different organizations. And I have asked for this in the past, and I'm going to ask for it again. I did vote to support that. I will state, if we do not have all of the reports from all of these entities, I'm going to vote no against them on the day of the full board meeting. They need to provide us their annual reports if they want to continue receiving annual funding, all of them,
Did you have
every
any-
single one.
Okay, what, any specific examples or?
Well, I know, I'm sure the Park Commission is good about this. I'm sure Cornell Cooperative Extension, I know the city does. I've looked at those. The Local Government Review Board, ANCA does. I don't know about EDC. I think we're still waiting for a report from that one. The Regional Planning Board has gotten much better in recent years. Lakes to Locks, they usually send us something, as well as the Adirondack Library System and the Historical Society. LDC, I don't know if they've sent us a formal report. And Soil and Water, I'm sure Jim can get us something if he hasn't already.
Those are excellent points. So you're just asking that those organizations send us the proper reporting before you vote on that. Okay. Any other discussion? Would anybody like to go home? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. McDevitt, second by Mr. Bruno. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?